Are you going to confess?
No. Okay. What? I didn't have to tell you that I did it, and now.
But you did.
Hi, welcome back. We're the Book Mavens. I'm Amanda, she's Rachel, and you are joining us for the final installment of our Summer of Hobb reading challenge. We have read all 16 of the Realm of the Elderlings series, and today we're going to talk about the final book in the series and in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, Assassin's Fate.
We are going to jump right into spoilers. There's no holding back. It's the last book.
How do you feel?
I feel a lot. I feel the end was very dramatic.
Yeah.
I didn't love everything about the ending. I'm not gonna lie. Like I wanted more for Fitz to not have to sit there while they all watched him. It would have been fine had it been his actual loved ones, but the idea that it ended up kind of becoming a bit of a spectacle just really solidified this kind of, or just solidified Fitz's whole life as being things, being surrounded by things that he didn't have any control over. Mm-hmm. And you'd like to think that your death and the way you go out would be something you could control, and that he still had to owe it to these people to kind of be available that way. Hurt my heart. And that hurt my heart that it couldn't have been something more private.
I agree.
So. But it makes total sense.
It does, and
I thought in terms of everything that Fitz experiences.
Yeah, it's just par for the course for Fitz, right?
It is.
Like, and they had some great moments where they talked about that. There's a great scene between Nettle and Bee when she's like, "Do you want me?" Like, Nettle is basically explaining why she can't leave until this is over because of how it would look, and then she offers to let Bee leave, and like, "You just told me all the reasons why we can't." Like, it's just that final knife.
All those
about,
obligations.
Yeah, this obligation and duty that they all feel. It's just that final knife one more time, that it's still there even at the end. Oh, but Night Eyes is back. Okay.
Well, he's never left.
He's never left, which I thought was so. It was so much deeper. Really, because, you know, in the book where Night Eyes dies, they talk a lot about with the wit about how there's like echoes of them still in the bond partner that survives. But then this one really added a lot of layers of depth, because Night Eyes goes for a time. He leaves Fitz and goes with Bee, which is unique because it was not like a shared thing. Fitz did not have him and missed him, and Bee had him. And then when he left Bee, she felt it. I thought it was so much deeper than
it was very deep. I love that he was present, though, through everything. That he was with Bee through all of that. And she was so alone. That just really resonated with me. And Fitz and Night Eyes are the same. You know, they're part of the whole. We talk about Fitz and the Fool being together, being one side of the whole. And I really loved all the foreshadowing they did with the Fool's sculpture in the Memory Stone, right? It's just so perfect that it was three-sided. And at the end, that's what we end up with. All three of them together.
I love that they went into the form of a wolf. That because, you know, I think Fitz had different moments over the course of his life with Night Eyes where he kind of regretted a little bit the sacrifices that Night Eyes had to make. That Night Eyes never had a pack. He never had pups. Like, he never truly lived with other wolves for very long.
He wasn't really accepted.
Right, he was never really accepted. And like, I know that hurt both of them a little bit. Night Eyes a little bit less because he lives in the moment, but I love at the end that Fitz and the Fool chose to be a wolf so that Night Eyes could be a wolf again. And I just loved that. It was so beautiful. It was so sadly beautiful.
Sadly beautiful, yeah. Those were the words you used.
And I reread it last night, the ending, just to because I couldn't quite, it's just hard to say goodbye. Goodness gracious.
It is really hard to say goodbye. And just the way that they chose for him to go, that Robin Hobb chose for him to go, was brutal, man. It was just brutal to be there day after day and kind of watch him just fade away and through parasites. Oh, like I just can't even. It was little moments, you know, where I was just like, oh no, I can't. It's just.
But the memory, like I was gonna say, it's so. That's the thing, is like it was so brutal, but then at the same time, it was so beautiful because he got to carve his own dragon.
There was so many
layers.
Yeah, but foreshadowing moments, even going back and remembering Verity, visiting Verity as the dragon, all of those things foreshadowing that eventually this is what Fitz would do. Was really remarkable. I mean, she did a really good job there. Was it, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through where we think Fitz has died, where he was left in that tunnel and is dead. I mean, like, it convinced me. I was in tears, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Here I'm thinking, well, this is just his opportunity to self-sacrifice and be left behind. And then, of course, that's just not what happens. You know, Fitz cheats death once again. And I was really happy that he got to have closure with all of his loved ones at the end. So that was nice. It just was witnessed by
I'm amazed at how many threads she wove together there at the end. Because, like, you know, we were reintroduced in the last book to some of our favorites from Beantown, from the Rainwilds. And she still managed to weave those threads in. Like, the scene, like, when Paragon becomes a dragon... dragons, I should say. Vivacia becomes dragons. Like, I had a hard time with the way that Amber broached that, and Rachel and I talked about this a lot in that book when we were reading it. It was not that I disagreed that they needed to be dragons. I just didn't like Amber's assumption.
Well, that's all in this book.
Is it in this book?
It's in this book.
Oh, you're right. Okay, well then it's in this book. But like Amber's assumption, like Amber basically just tells Paragon she's going to give him what he needs to become a dragon. And then he basically takes the crew hostage on his efforts to do it. And I totally understand that Amber felt like she didn't have a choice and blah, 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 and didn't want to get into the game. But, like, Althea is your friend. You keep relying on her, and she relied on you, and, like, you have this shared history. And Althea has never not put the ship first. Like, she wasn't even given that opportunity to help at least mitigate with the ship. Like, she just really put Althea and Brashen and everyone in a really tough situation, and it all works out in the end. But that was just kind of tough. But you know, you made some really good points over the week as we were reading about, like, the desperation driving Amber's decisions, and like.
Well, but I also, you have to look back and in terms of going back to the Live Ship Traders trilogy, that Amber's motivations for being there was always about the dragons. And becoming friends with Althea and Brashen was just kind of a sideline to her primary mission. Her primary mission was always Paragon. It was always Paragon. How am I going to get them to help me get Paragon off the beach? Everything was about Paragon. So to me, that really wasn't a big change for Amber's character.
Yeah, the way that she uses... Well, the Fool has always used whatever tools they could to achieve the aim that they had.
But I don't think that he or she, they, were necessarily ever comfortable doing that. It was a means to an end for Amber. And I know you don't. Yeah, we've talked about those things.
Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't enough for me. And then, like, but I have to admit that the scenes with Bee and the Fool after. Okay, Bee and the Fool after was.
I love that it wasn't neat.
I love that it wasn't
neat. It wasn't that she just went and had this instantaneous bond with the Fool. There was never a bond.
No, she didn't like him.
I mean, for legitimate reasons, and because so many things are never explained, of course.
Yeah. I mean, of course not. That would be too nice.
And her resentment, the fact that she is a 9-year-old child through most of this. So it's very... Her reactions, her emotional reactions to things are very much where she would be developmentally. So,
right, like despite this incredible power and the just insane situations that she's been in and survived, and like I think at the end too, like a lot of it is, I mean, she's a traumatized child.
She is, yeah,
and she thinks that she's lost the only person who ever really. You know, her father, Fitz and Bee had a tough road, but he really, he accepted her as she was, like, and did his best to protect her.
Yeah, but he also acknowledged that he wasn't the best, that especially
Right.
without Molly, to be able to do that. And so the decision, I love the decision in terms of who was going to end up being her guardian, ended up not being Nettle. I never liked Nettle for her. I never thought that Nettle really understood Bee and where Nettle was in regards to the court and in terms of her priorities. I never felt that that was going to align with Bee's happiness. That just never sat well with me. So in the end, of course, with Catrickin taking over in the mountains, gonna take her to the mountains where she would have so much more freedom, because the mountains is so much less restrictive than Buckkeep, that I said that is perfect. I couldn't imagine a better guardian. That for Catrickin to only have had one child, and Catrickin was somebody who had so much to give, and to not have the opportunity for more children. I always, that's why I was hoping for a little romance with her and Webb. I was just hoping for more for Catrickin, because I do love Catrickin, and that she was just so happy and gratified to do it.
And she takes Spark on too, which I think is just another,
Well, that's perfect. The patience and Lacey thing.
She's so Catrickin is so nurturing by nature that I think that will be I think they're just going to have the most fantastic adventure. And she's taking one of her Integrity is going to the mountains. One of Dutiful's sons is going to be the new Duke of the Mountains, and Catrickin is going to the mountains to smooth that over. So basically, she's taking, one grandson.
Well, it worked out really well. I thought it was Buckkeep in general.
And Hap is going with Bee for a little while.
Her
is going with Bee. Ugh, her.
I love him.
I know. He's just got my heart. He's like.
He's
got my heart.
Yeah. He's pretty amazing.
He's wonderful. He reminds me of a very young Fitz.
He does. Willing to do whatever it was going to take. But I love that how well he was able to adjust. I mean, there was pain, of course, but to find a new life for himself, that all of the trauma with his mother and the fact his mother is just so guilt-ridden, she can't even try to get that relationship back with him after all of the trauma at Withy Woods. I love that he has now given his life to something where he's very comfortable and secure. I just really like that for him. I thought that was perfect.
I did too. I think it was so realistic too, because that cut so deep, even after her memory was restored. Just knowing that sometimes things just get so broken that they can never really get back. Nothing's ever the same once it's broken, and sometimes you just have to put the broken pieces aside and build something new, and they both do that. And that is, but I love Perseverance, because I think one of my favorite things about him is that he's never taken his pledging himself to Fitz as I'm going to be obedient to Fitz.
No, not at all.
Not once. He hardly ever does what Fitz tells him to do. Much to Fitz's annoyance.
Yes.
Through much of the book, because he keeps trying.
He compares him to the
be an assassin. Yeah, he keeps trying to go be an assassin, which is alone and sneaky, and then here everybody comes after him.
Well, we do get to see Lant. We were talking about that he needed to do this huge thing. Lant never does anything huge, but there's something about it. Almost just he just kind of breaks you down slowly, because he never leaves. He's very steadfast.
Yeah, he was so consistent.
He was very consistent.
Effort.
So maybe that's why.
And he really did. He really did come through.
He does.
He really does come through. And he really, it's
he stuck to his guns. He grew.
Fast.
He needed to be with Fitz. I absolutely understand why Shade says, "Oh, you better hold on to Fitz and not let go." That made so much sense to me, since Shade was fading, and of course Shade does pass in this book, which I can't say I was really all that heartbroken to see Shade go.
I thought it was an interesting way that she wrote him out, that it happens when they're so far away, and that honestly his obsession with the skill has never faded, and in fact they just keep finding that he's been doing more and more
shady stuff.
Shade. That old spider.
Yes.
He's I thought it was very smoothly done, the way she wrote him out, and then
we always knew there was going to be something about what he was going to do. Either he was going to blow himself up, or he was going to get lost in the skill. One of those things is going to happen to Shade.
And Fitz took all the bombs with him, to the scale it was. But like and thick. There at the end.
Thick with B.
It was so perfect. And even then, Nettle, like, that's what I think
still,
you're right.
Like, it just was never gonna vibe with Nettle.
Right. I think it's so, because I was like, you can't, she's like, well, what do you do with him? She's like, he's teaching me to play music and he has a cat and we eat candy.
So, yeah.
Like, she's like,
it's the simplicity of it.
Thick is so uncomplicated to be.
It's perfect. Doesn't ask anything from her. Right. Doesn't require her to act in any certain way, and she just flipping hates it. But I do love the scene with her and Shine.
I knew that was like going to be your moment.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And with the catty catness that women can have.
Oh, she said the kitten has claws or something like that because B's like.
And but she says it's stinging like a bee. She's like taking on her name, and I like that her and Shine were able to come to terms with their shared trauma, that they were able to kind of move past it together a little bit. So I like that there was a conclusion.
That first step is always the hardest, and I think them being kind of pitted against the other ladies was such a nice.
She gave Shine a nice little boost there, though, so I think Shine will do better. They didn't really say what was going to happen with her. She was just gonna stay at Bucky.
She's gonna be a queen. She's a queen's lady, queen.
Yeah, I guess with
Lady in Waiting.
Yeah, sure. Something like that. Handmaiden,
something like that. Anyway, she's one of those ladies who knits around the queen.
Yeah, there we go.
Which on the one hand, I mean, I like to crochet and knit, and that sounds like quite the life. But on the other hand, that sounds awful. Like
that's long days.
Yeah, that sounds so dry.
Well, you just sit around and talk a bunch of stuff about everybody else. That's all they did. Well, there's lots. Well, I did read something that said that she doesn't know for sure if everything's really over. Would she ever write a story about B?
She wrote it like it might.
I honestly am very content. This is where I'm content. I'm content to leave it because really she did what I wanted her to do. She brought together those storylines. They got to see more with Althea and Brashen and their son and Malta and, just all of them. Rain, that's the name I was missing. But I didn't care so much about the
keepers.
Dragon keepers. But that's fine to see them again. Whatever. But but I was happy to see those come together. I got my meet cute that I was dying for Paragon and Fitz to meet face to face, and
what a meeting!
Yes, and so I got the things that I was looking to get. I wanted to see those storylines weave. The only one that I was missing that I was bummed that I didn't see is that Mercor. Mercor never came back in this one, so I was a little sad not to see Mercor, even though we saw Centaura and Tintaglia and even Icefire. And Hebe, of course. Hebe's adorable. Hebe. But I just missed not seeing Mercor. Like, where was he? Because they kind of left where he was mated with Tintaglia. Like, I thought that he would come back around, and she just never mentions him again.
Like, I really hoped there was going to be some kind of more balance between the dragons and the humans because, they talk about, like, there's a lot of political trouble between the dragons because they're, like, terrorizing the farmers in certain areas and, like, and they're, like, intentional or not, causing a lot of harm to the children of Kilsingra because they're not guiding their changes. And I really thought there was going to be like a moment where they're going to have to like come to some conclusion in that. And they don't really with the dragons. Like there is a conclusion because in an opening, the Six Duchies is going to use skill to help guide the changes. And so you get resolution on that. But I was really hoping there was going to be
I don't know. I didn't think it was so necessary. It was really more about the ones who had been exposed just from being around the dragons, not necessarily claimed to be Elderlings, where their changes were really, I felt, the most life-threatening. And so we wouldn't have to worry about dragon interference with that. They would just go and get healed, and it would be fine. So, I mean, I think the other dragons, I do think that Tintaglia finding out, hey, you were growing poison sacs in his neck, you're going to kill him, that I think that even though you don't really see it in the page, this is me inferring, right, that is still eye-opening because Tintaglia, Centaura, they're not going to admit that they did anything wrong, but I do think that moving forward, I think they'd probably be a little bit more cautious in terms of that. Because they don't want their Elderlings to die. I really don't think that.
I think it's some of the experience that they just lost. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really, I mean, they know how Elderlings are made, but they don't have a lot of, like,
the human anatomy side.
They don't really understand. And I think you're right. I hope that they kind of learn, like, maybe this is that learning.
They just don't like to admit when they've made a boo-boo.
I mean, sometimes I feel that. But the other thing that this is where I could see where she could pick up the story again, is like, Bee doesn't want to be a white prophet. And she's told the fool that multiple times. And she writes it, and like, she goes,
but it's kind of done.
I'm not going to, that's what she keeps saying. She goes, I don't want my dreams to meet. She goes, I'm not going to do anything with these dreams. I'm not going to do, like, I don't want to be a white prophet like you are. And that's part of her and the fool's, he reads her journals and she hates it. She hates it. She thinks it is so rude and so invasive. And the fool, being the fool, thinks he knows better. And he might. And I'm not saying he doesn't, but I'm also saying, like,
he's trying to make sure she's not going to be in danger anymore, so she knows what she's doing and stuff like that.
But then it's not surprising when she doesn't like you.
Like, yeah, I mean, people always have those unrealistic expectations when it comes to bonding with children. I feel like
that's true.
It's a mix. I really think that she never really fully understood, at least not until the very end, the bond between her father and the fool. And I think a lot of that, just so much resentment. There was no recovering from that. And the fact of the matter is that the fool doesn't belong to her. He belongs to her father. You know, I mean, through the entire end of that book, I'm just waiting. Okay. Because, you know, Bee lies to him, saying that, you know, her father didn't want him there and all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, no, she completely twists Fitz' words. And to hurt him, to drive a wedge.
Well, and it worked, but I'll say, like, and she says that kind of a couple of times too, like you're saying, there's no opportunity for Bee to know what the fool is to her father other than what she's observed, because the fool is very invasive and, like, reads her journals and just let me know you, but he never opens up to her. Like, he doesn't. So then she feels
Fitz
that.
Does.
Well,
Fitz
yeah,
does.
but even then, it's not a lot of time, you know, because the fool comes back. They don't actually spend a lot of time.
Well, I don't know. They're really, it's kind of vague in terms of how long they're there while he's carving his wolf.
It's vague, and, like, I think that's when she starts to see it. But in terms of, like, by the time she's rescued,
to watch him,
to then
to know that there's not enough to bring the wolf to life, right? So just to watch him waiting and waiting, you know, we know that he's waiting for the fool. He's waiting for the fool, and the fool's not doing it, thinking that Fitz doesn't want him with him. And so finally, when Bee confronts him, calls him an idiot, you know, like, I was lying to you, you idiot. And
I love that.
I mean, but just like immediately he goes, and, you know, for them to be free. And, you know, these are people who have really suffered this kind of life. Yeah. That kind of freedom, I think, is something that Fitz always longed for. And he never recovered from Night Eyes dying. I mean, I never
how
thought
could he?
How
could he?
You know,
like, you know, how could he? But
and he had his life with Molly.
Yeah.
He got those 20 years.
He has these, like, little episodes, if you will. These
20 years is that a little bit of happiness. 20 years with her. That's not too shabby. I mean, it's not a lifetime, but I mean, they had a part of their youth together. We said this before too.
He paid a high price for it on all ends to have his little moments of peace and happiness. Oh, okay. How about that reveal about Night Eyes and Catrican?
Oh, Night Eyes always thought Catrican was the one.
And he just drops that, like, right there at the end.
That would have been the mate he had chosen for him.
Yeah. He says it to
have to say, I feel him on that, though. I
don't know.
I prefer Catrican to Molly. I
don't know if I do.
I said it. I've always been a Catrican fan. You struggled with her in times.
I do,
and I don't struggle with Catrican.
She reminds me so much of the Fool in that, like,
they're never going to be afraid to do what's necessary, and you need people like that. She gives a
lot of herself.
She does everything.
I mean, she does.
She'll never ask anybody to do something that she wouldn't do herself.
But she takes a lot from people too.
She's sacrificed.
Now, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit worried about how she's gonna handle Bee, because you know that Catrican's always trying to right, left, and marry other people's children.
But it's done. Ileana has the daughter, so she has fulfilled her job to provide the next. Yes, she has a daughter.
Wait, do we know that it's a daughter?
Yes.
I thought they just said if it's a daughter.
No, it is a daughter. She has the daughter. Dutiful leaves to go be with Fitz and leaves Eliana and the new baby. Like, he wants to go back.
I thought she was...
You were so funny.
I totally missed it.
And yeah,
Wait a second.
Girl. Go ahead.
Because Nettle had a girl, and they talked about if Eliana's is a thing, she'll be a...
It's a girl. She has a girl.
Does she have it there at this end?
Yeah.
Do we know that?
Yeah, because she's not there. You're so funny.
I know.
I love what you...
Why
do you doubt me?
I don't. This is so... How do I miss these things? I read it like 3 times.
She has a daughter. So everything, all of those things are done.
Oh.
So you could trick in. She's done everything she can. The line's not going to go anywhere. There are 2 boys. One's going with her to the mountains. The other one will become king in waiting. And then Eliana has completed her duty to her mother house by providing a daughter. Knots have been tied. Those strings are done.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
The 6 duchies are in great shape.
I misread it because I read it as like Eliania.
Yeah,
I got it. Eliania really believes it's going to be a girl.
Oh no, she absolutely
hasn't actually
but
had
she does have.
Oh, I missed that in the fog of my grief.
Well, we are so focused on Fitz, but there's so many other things. There's so many.
She's tying so many threads so beautifully. Like Hap is there and he's successful and like he's.
I love that Hap finally gets it.
And like, Bee's still surrounded by people who care about her, and like, I loved it. It was tragically beautiful, but she did kind of leave it open because like,
I don't think so.
Because Bee's dreams. Well, no. I mean, like in terms of she could pick it up if she wanted, because Bee's dreams are not necessarily going to stop, and now the fool's not there.
I just don't. I think there was a whole big reflection in terms of the fact that the white prophets don't necessarily bring. You need to let people do what they're going to do. Like, I don't know, like in terms of finding a catalyst, it's like, about fate.
Or you could just leave the world alone and let it do what it's going to do. Let fate decide, as it were. Right. Which I think is kind of where B is. And you know what? If I was this traumatized level of 9-year-old, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, at least for now.
Peace out. I did my stuff. I'm ready for...
I mean, she destroyed. They burned down.
She's a destroyer.
All of those records.
That scene, like where because it kind of in those chapters, if I'm remembering right, it kind of kept flashing from like the rescue party and B, and B's like it was so visual, the writing of her just like trailing up and down these racks of scrolls and books with her oil, and like she, like just so methodical, like I will destroy it all. And you know what?
Well, there's part of me, the inner librarian that's in all of us, that was like, oh.
I know, but it's so, but it had been
but
so
it needed to be done.
It had been so misused. Like,
and Prokop, everything with, And I love, because you can't make Prokop into a villain. He's not a villain.
He's just past his time, I think.
I just love that. There was some line. What was it? You're usually better with the lines. Like, we're like the fool's talking about Prokop, I think, to be, and that we are friends. We just had a disagreement.
Oh yeah, we just had it. Sometimes friends fundamentally disagree about certain things.
Yeah,
he says that to Fitz too. He's like, he's like, we were never friends at all, were we? And Fitz is kind of like, I guess not. He's like, I can't believe that one of those 4 survived all that stuff. But you know what? Good for Fitz, because he was feeling pretty bad that he had not been able to kill any of the 4. He gets one in the end, I guess. But what a traumatic, drawn out, like, oh God, what a book! What a book!
It is a book.
And I'm just so we're in book hangover mode because we're both just, it's sad.
Well, this was such a saga. 16 books worth.
Yeah, I've invested so much time and energy into these stories, and I'm sad that they're done, but I'm also very content.
Well, you're the one who's like, well, what's next? And
well, no, not what's next, but you having said that you heard that, I could see where she did it.
I think she always leaves it open. I would get it too.
Genius. Yeah,
and I would still read it. Anything that she was going to write under the Elderlings heading, I would absolutely read. But it's just very, this felt solid for it to end. That it begins with Fitz, it ends with Fitz in this other life. I liked it because you always hate when you have this character that you love, that you follow his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have it go all the way to the end, to have to witness their death. I really love that she gives you a death, like a finality to it, but also that he's going to live on in some kind of way. And I just, what a way to really just satisfy the readers.
She had me from the dedication. She dedicated this book. She dedicated to the Fitz and the Fool, who've been my best friend for 20 plus years. And I was like, I cried like as soon as we started the book. I was like, we're doing it. And then of course we're like in the middle of a cliffhanger, and then we're off. Like,
oh, but wait,
I sped through this book.
Are you gonna confess?
No. Okay. All right. No. Fine. Okay. What? I didn't have to tell you that I did it, and now.
But you did.
Okay.
So
because I feel.
But you don't.
Okay. I don't actually feel bad. All right. Listen. Here's what had happened. I was reading one night. I was about halfway through. I was like 50% in this book. And I honestly cannot recall. I was trying to think about it.
She described it as an out-of-body experience.
It was a little bit. I went looking for something. I don't know if I was looking to see what the end of the chapter was or whatever. But anyway, somehow I found myself probably 10, 15 chapters from the end. And something caught my attention. And I started reading that page. And then, like, before I knew it, I had read the last page. So she skipped a good quarter of the book.
Okay, but here's why I
don't feel bad about it. Because
she literally texted me, sorry, not sorry.
Because I didn't quit. I immediately went back to where I had left off, and then I kept reading again. So I really didn't mean to. Like, the writing was just so compelling that something caught my eye, and I started reading, and then I didn't even realize how far I was until I got to the last page, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So, and of course I immediately turn around and like go back and start. She was very upset with me. And this is why I don't feel bad. Sometimes I have done that. Like, because sometimes.
Have you been doing this entire time?
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Okay.
Sometimes you just need to know. Sometimes you just need to know if a book is going to be worth your time. And I'll read the end, and then I feel no compulsion to find out how we got there, and I quit the book. I'm looking at you, 4th book of the Twilight series. Sorry. Don't come for me. But I needed to know. I wanted to know. So I've read every word of this book.
Out of order.
I am a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I'm saying. I was as shocked as anybody because I was like, wait, what just happened? Because I've been reading these for 16 books.
Oh yeah. No, she fessed up, and then I teach some of her students, and I ranted to the 3 classes in which I have some of her students, and told them what she did. And I said, so when you pass her in the halls and go into class, just whisper, shame on you.
None of them did that.
Because there's
lots of them asked me about it. They were like, isn't Miss Hale still mad at you? And I was like, probably. I mean, I think it got better when you had finished too.
I finished it the day that she told me about it, but I was pedal to the metal to get there because I usually finish before she does. Most of the books I finish before you.
Yeah. In this book, I was just so compelled to read. Like, I'm always interested in the story.
Well, because it's the last one.
But this one, I was like, really, and it didn't always feel, I don't know if you experienced this, but like I said, like, I didn't always feel like I was reading as fast as I was because I was just so absorbed in the story. I was just like soaking it in.
You're not skimming anywhere. You really
right. You're just like going and like, and I didn't, sometimes I'd be surprised at how far I had read or how long I'd been sitting there. It's just such a good read. Such a good read. And I'm totally fine if we cut that. There's not It's fine. I did it.
I did it.
My only defense is that was not my intention. Robin Hobbs just got me. She caught me up in a line, and then somehow there we were. What a good book. Robin Hobb. Okay. All right.
You gonna try reading her other ones as Megan Lindholm?
I don't know. I might.
Sure, it's a lot of short stories.
I'm not gonna lie. We're planning some palate cleansers.
Mm-hmm.
Post this because we are definitely in a bit of a book hangover hole.
Ooh, yes.
Like, it's just
like to start another series at this point is where we've got to have like, I don't know, we do it in like a solid month where we're not going to pick up.
It's at least 3 weeks of other stuff we have planned before we jump into our next project.
Yeah. You don't want to ditch us yet. We've got other things in the works.
We're not done, folks. We got other things coming. Yeah, but I'm definitely not up for a series. I need some like standalone, fluffy, cozy, like just light, fluffy reads. I need a minute.
We'll have to mention those in our last video.
Yeah, we'll have to let you know what we decide to read.
I actually went a totally different direction with this book in terms of food rating. This felt like going on a fast for me.
Really? Do tell.
I think it's because of there were just so many things going on that it didn't feel like a meal. I felt like I was in like just this level of urgency, and then getting to the end, like I felt like I was somehow depriving myself in a way, like kind of almost like suffering alongside of Fitz. Like I can't even imagine comparing this to consuming anything. Like this book just took so much out that I don't feel like it equates to food in terms of putting anything inside myself. To me, this was an outpouring and more of a deprivation situation than it was about any kind of enjoyment I could get out of food. And a lot of it, I think, was just because so much of it was about expectations not being what they were supposed to be. Like in terms of Fitz's death and it not being what he would have chosen for himself. B, not ending up with the guardian we all thought she was going to end up with. And although that was better, but you know, just a lot of expectations perhaps that we had that go unrealized or become something else that I can't. For me, this just wasn't about food. This was about so much more came out of me than I can imagine putting something inside my body.
Now you've totally changed my mind.
I changed your mind, like, because there's so much about like talking about like bringing so much in and just so much enrichment kind of. This just drained me. So like even like with some of the other books, like getting a really great cathartic moment out of it, you know, like I can't even get there with this one because this was like going on a marathon and starving myself through it. Like,
I would know nothing about what a marathon's like.
Well, me either. I don't run, but like just this idea that this took more out of me than it put inside me.
Oh gosh. Okay, well, I totally changed my mind, and I hate to do this on the last book, but really? I'm gonna go with what you said.
Well, that's just how I just feel very drained. Like I feel like it's almost like I don't want to use the word purge because that sounds like
a little bit though. You explained that so beautifully.
Well, I'm thrilled because it feels like it was a jumbled mess in my brain. But like, yeah, that it's just I just felt like this took something from me, and like and not in a bad way,
there was an emotional cost to this book.
There was an emptying out that happened with this book.
Gosh, okay, well, I'm going to go with that too.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, like, I feel very fulfilled in terms of reading the entire series, but maybe it's just because it's the last book. And how it ends. That, yeah, it just felt like I just don't have anything left inside of me kind of deal. Like, it's all been out. It's just on the pages of the book. So, yeah, that's how I would rank it. You know, it doesn't really fit with the food ranking thing, but it was just, I mean, to me, this was almost like a privation book.
That's a wrap on the Summer of Hobb Book Challenge.
Thank you for sticking with us through all 16 books. You guys know who you are that have stuck with us through all of them, and we appreciate all the support that you all have given us and encouraging us to keep going and how much we'll love them, and we do, and we did, and they're amazing. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was absolutely worth every bit of it. But like Rachel said earlier, we're not done. We have some other projects and stuff planned. Next week, we are actually going to do a ranking video where we're going to look at the series in its entirety.
We're going to look back over them.
Yeah, we're going to look over the journey.
We're going to talk about our most favorite things, our least favorite things. We've got some categories we want to talk about. So make sure if you were a lover of this entire series that you certainly come and tune back in with us, because we're going to look at it. And we, of course, always love to hear from you guys in the comments. So feel free to like and subscribe and write us some information. And also, please feel free to recommend some books you think that we really love these so much.
And anything else like this, like she says, we'd love recommendations in the comments. Really and tell us how you felt. I mean, were you as emotionally drained as us? Are you tired at the end of the series?
You don't have to worry about any spoilers. We've got them all done. We finished them all, so lay it out for us.
Yeah, anything you wanted to tell us, we're ready. Because now we're not worried about spoiling anything because we're here. All right, well, we'll see you next week when we'll be ranking everything and kind of going over the series as a whole. See you next time. Bye.